Primer, and I'm here to tell you that it gets better. Um, I came out pretty early. When I was 15 years old, my mom walked in on me and my boyfriend at the time, and she was not happy. Uh, she had a hard time coming to terms with it. It took her a couple of years, and my dad, it took even longer. And I remember the first thing she said to me was, "I don't understand why you would choose something that would make your life so much harder." So that was kind of the beginning of my young gay life, was dealing with that idea and explaining to other people and explaining to myself that it wasn't a choice, that I didn't want my life to be harder. And I spent time making friends, and I had a lot of really good friends in high school, but no one who could really relate to my experience, or with whom I could talk about what I was going through. So I started to act out. I got funny haircuts. I dyed my hair weird colors and walked around the halls of my high school in vinyl zipper pants. Even started experimenting with alcohol and other drugs. It's tough. Time was pretty tough for me until my sophomore year of high school, when I started attending a youth group on the north side of Chicago named Horizons. They were modest, and they met twice a week, and it was a bit of a trek for me because I was a suburban kid, and I had grown up in Evanston, which is outside of the city of Chicago. So the gay-straight alliances I was used to were mostly filled with white kids talking about how their parents wouldn't let them take the SUV to see their boyfriend that weekend, or things like that. So when I went into the city, and I met kids who were dealing with real issues that like scared and inspired me, things like homelessness and HIV and AIDS, physical and emotional abuse, neglect, things that I was fortunate enough maybe not to have to had dealt with in my own life, but I got to experience and listen and learn. And this was really significant because it was my first time with the LGBT community. I was inspired. I met a lot of really wonderful people who gave back to the community in their own way, and shared their stories with us and gave us advice. And it was sharing stories that really brought everything together for me. One day, a theater group came to talk about recruiting for their upcoming stage play. Their name was About Face Youth Theater, and they were asking for members to come and tell their own stories on stage, to collaborate with other young queer people ages 17 to 22, and just create a work of art that was authentic and something we could be proud of, and something that represented us. I joined, and I learned even more about how community was formed. We met in a basement also on the north side of Chicago in Boys Town, once a week, every Saturday morning, and we opened up to each other. We created elaborate works of art. We broke down and helped heal each other back together, made ourselves vulnerable. It was an incredible experience, and something that I remember as life-changing even today, especially today. I participated for 2 years. I was in a main stage show at the Jane Addams Hull House, and later at the Goodman Theater, which was an incredible experience. This community, the sense of community, changed me. It was a community created and inspired by art, by movement. After the show ended, I continued and finished high school and went to college. And after college, I did my master's, and I finished my master's, and I moved abroad with my partner, who I had met 15 years prior in About Face Youth Theater. We've been best friends since we were 16, and we've been a couple for over 5 years. We have a adorable little dog, and we are quite happy doing what we're doing. Have stable jobs, or I get to do what I love, helping young people discover and pursue their passions, set goals, dream big, just like I was fortunate enough to have the chance to do. Make sure you let yourself connect to the arts and explore what you're good at is the one piece of advice that I can give. I found my community because I looked for it really hard. But there are places where communities like the one I found don't exist yet, or don't exist at all. This might be a place where you're living currently. This might be a place on the other side of the world. My second piece of advice is don't fret or don't worry too much if community doesn't always find you immediately, or if you don't feel like you're part of the community you're in. Always push yourself to seek inspiration and company, because you're never truly alone. And I know this sounds cliche because we've always been talking about it, but there are LGBT people literally in every corner of the world, everywhere across the planet. And where they may not look like you exactly, or speak like you, or have the same life experience, it's important to embrace them, to embrace all cultures, all differences. Embrace the unknown and always challenge yourself to try new things. There are people rooting for you in places you would never expect. And the beauty of community is that there's always somebody there to listen, and somebody always has your back. Maybe it's a social worker or a career counselor, a guidance counselor, a teacher that you don't know is looking out for you. There's always somebody that has your back, even though you don't see it. I hope you enjoy the videos and the lesson, and I hope that it inspires some interesting conversation. And again, look for the most authentic community you can find, because it really does get better, and I'm living proof. Thank you. Enjoy.